Welcome to Enter Cheat Code. Today we're going to look at my personal front runner for Game of the Year, Supergiant's Hades. Today I'm going to provide a walkthrough for 4 of the bosses in Hades. Here is your look at an average gamer's approach to Hades. Hope you enjoy. We're going to start off with looking at the boss Meg. Not a difficult fight when you understand her patterns. I always start off with cast, as you can see here. It's very easy to forget to do that. The second I put cast and the gems are inside of her, I do additional damage. Notice how I always try to position myself behind her for backstab. So she'll go for that straight line. That's my opportunity to come behind her and get those backstabs in. She has this big wind-up attack, easy to read. And as you see, the floor goes with a big attack, but you can squeeze in a couple attacks if you're bold enough and then keep it moving. Periodically, she'll summon enemies. Some of them are projectile enemies. They're not that bad. You can mostly ignore them, or if you so choose, can engage them. But keep the pace going and just continue the backstabs on her. Notice that she will get hit by the traps. These projectiles are pretty easy to dodge. If you have a deflect, you can shoot them back, or you can use the environment to hide behind. But they're pretty easy. You don't have to stress about them. I'm going to keep hitting her and dodging these floor attacks. Very easy to dodge. Unfortunately, got slammed by a trap, but it happens sometimes. And that's the end of Meg. On to Lernie, the Bone Hydra, a boss fight that is actually very well done and that has a lot of fun mechanics. I like to start off by putting my cast inside as it does additional damage, and I'm going to sit out of range of its charge attack. Because I currently have deflect on, I'm going to sit back and deflect any projectiles back at it, but if you don't, stand far enough back that you have additional reaction time. These other hydras will come from the lava. Pay attention to the lava so that you can get that free hit in right when they pop out. I always work counterclockwise as I progress through these. I just find it easier to have a designated pattern. After you defeat all the additional Bone Hydra, you are now entering the second damage phase of Lernie. Same strategy. Get your cast, put them in, sit out of range, and just continue to work. It's not too difficult to dodge his attacks. Its slam attack is easy. Just sit out of range and the projectiles. Deflect if you have a deflect. If not, just phase through them. Now, pay attention to the lava because he's going to queue up the next stuff. I like to go to the top left corner, charge up my attack, and right when they come, get that big attack in and keep it moving. Just be mindful of the additional projectiles. Nothing's too difficult to dodge. Just take your time. I'm hitting it with the Zeus attack. If you have your god powers, it's very easy to forget to use them. So use them or lose them. It resets after every battle. Getting a little bit chaotic here, but I still haven't taken any real damage because I have my shield on. And as I move to the last Hydra, I'm going to take Lernie and bring it into its third and final damage phase. And the strategy is the same thing. I'm going to go here, put my cast in for additional damage. Hit its projectiles back, and I'm going to finish it off with my god power. And on to the next fight, Thessius and The Minotaur. This fight can be extremely challenging, but you need to make sure that you pick a target to focus on, and that movement is key. You should never stop moving. Anytime you see that pink reticle on top of you, that means Thessius is charging up his spear to throw it, and you need to continue dodging. I recommend you hit the Minotaur only when it is easy to do so, but never focus on him entirely. Each boss, when they hit a certain damage meter, they go into a god tier mode where things get ramped up. You do not want to put both of them in that position at the same time or you are going to get messed up. The reticle is on me, and then I will position myself behind Thessius for some big attacks and just keep it moving. Every now and then the Minotaur will charge you. When that happens, it's important that you phase through these giant pillars. This will force the Minotaur to slam into them, giving you an opportunity to damage him. Continue using your god powers as they charge up if you have them. There's the miss from Thessius. I position myself behind, and once those crystals come out, you need to continue dropping that cast. It's just so easy to forget. And it's always nice to tick away at that damage, especially if you have the damage buff. He missed his spear, come behind him for the big attacks. Watch the reticle, keep it moving. I do have chill on my attack, stacking, so that is very helpful to slow them down. And you just need to continue to rinse and repeat. But movement is everything. Damage the Minotaur periodically, but once again, eliminating Thessius needs to be your biggest concern, because right when he summons his god power, he will use that god power the length of the fight. As you can see here, he has just summoned it on me, and this is Ares. You do get a reprieve for an opportunity to get some attacks in, but watch how you have some free spaces on the floor. This is your opportunity to keep moving and find one of those safe designated spots. But keep in mind, the Minotaur is still chasing you this entire time. So I've lost my shield and I'm taking actual damage at this point. So you can see this just is simply a tough fight, but you just need to keep it moving. Constantly phasing through and looking for your opportunities to strike. Don't get greedy, watch the dodge, and then come behind. Now you'll notice I've taken a decent chunk of the Minotaur's health as well, which is great. I'm dropping my call, which is Zeus. And Thessius is coming close to the end of his health. But as you can see, I'm taking some big damage here. I'll continue summoning that call over and over. He got me on that one. And the Minotaur got me. The two Chads are just jacking me up at this point. Now I'm down to very low health, but I'm going to try and focus on Thessius still and just stay the course. Now, I've taken out Thessius and the Minotaur is going to turn up. Notice how I phased through that pillar, forcing him to hit it. This gives you an opportunity to put some damage in. Just keep phasing through over and over until you can get him to hit a pillar and take that opportunity. Now notice this time around, he does have projectiles that are challenging to deflect because they come in different patterns. I did take the death here, but that's okay. We still have 2 death defiances, and we're going to still beat the game with what we have. I did get a little bit careless, as you can see. A little bit greedy and aggressive, and that's the thing. You have to be patient in this fight. Backstabs are essential. If you have the opportunity to do it, always go for a backstab. And in this case, use your special quite a bit, so that way you can maintain distance. It really is up to you. Let's finish him off with Zeus. Boom. Not quite enough to finish him, but we're going to keep the pace, keep our distance, keep it moving, because it'll only take one big hit. And here we go, finishing off the Minotaur. Despite having beat Hades over 10 times, he can still beat me. This is an extremely difficult fight and a test of attrition. This is a fight you do not want to rush. I always start off with my cast. Notice he has that big wind-up attack. He choreographs it pretty significantly, which gives you the opportunity to get out of there. He is going to shoot these projectile skulls. You can deflect them, and that is the best strategy. So if you have deflect on your dash or anything, it's the best way to just knock those away from you. You have couple options to deal with these skulls. The best option is to try and destroy them before they have the opportunity to go. I always recommend you phase through them, as you can see there. That's your second strategy. Go towards them. And the third strategy is to run away from them. That one is the riskiest, as you always could misjudge how far they'll go and could always get trapped by the environment. So I recommend destroying the skulls first, and then second, phasing through them if they are coming at you. This is a long fight, so you need to just sit back and pluck away at its damage periodically. Do not forget to use your cast. I actually happen to have, as I mentioned, whenever I cast and my crystals are inserted into the target, it does additional damage. Plus, any of my casts that do knockback do additional damage to bosses as well. So it's so key that I do not forget to do this. Notice the skull there. I'm going to prioritize the skull and get out of there, and then try and deflect that skull back, as you can see with my special. Deflecting the skull does not stop it from doing its damage phase, so phase through it when you can. He will summon enemies periodically. These enemies take a lot of damage and come with shields, so if you have anything that does additional damage to armor like my special does, it's important to take those shields out immediately. The enemy types vary from projectile enemies to your standard enemies and some of the most difficult ones, so it is just important to keep moving and take your time, because the whole time you're fighting these enemies, Hades is coming for you. If you do not take out the little orbs, you know they will go back to their weapons and respawn. Now this is a nice cluster. We might be able to drop our Zeus power, as you can see there, and phase through it if you can. So this is a good opportunity to take out the skull while Hades is gone and keep it moving. And I deflected it back to him, which can always be a little bit challenging to do, but if you can, always do it. Collect the crystals. You have about 5 seconds to destroy the skulls before they rupture and shoot off that green orb. Always keep your distance. The further away you are from Hades, the better you have to respond to his attacks. Now obviously this is a lot more challenging if you're using a sword or the gloves, but in this case, for the purposes of our walkthrough for the spear, keep your distance and keep it moving. Now you'll notice he's impervious right now, which means he's going to summon a bunch of enemies. Nice little cluster here for me to do a charge attack and hit him with my cast, since it has a big area of effect. I recommend you get a big area of effect cast because it helps you in the Cerebus section, but it also helps you damage the enemies in their close clusters during this fight. Still chipping away at his health, and it's just a marathon fight at this point. I feel very underpowered in this fight. The difficulty of the game does scale up, so this fight takes quite some time, but the second you start to get greedy, the second you start making mistakes. Phase through. Unfortunately, my phase there didn't quite, the timing was off, so I took a little bit of damage. Anytime you have the opportunity to backstab, I always recommend that you take it, but don't put yourself in a compromising position to do so, because there is no reason to rush this fight. You've already spent about 30 minutes getting to it. Don't get careless and lazy rushing the fight to have to restart the whole game. Now we're getting very close to his end health, and we took him out. Now, many of you probably jumped up and screamed to celebrate, only to be disappointed to find out he has a second phase. He starts off with that green blast. Now, listen very carefully, guys, because before he shoots these lasers, there is an audio cue, which gives you the opportunity to take cover. Now, he shot his laser and there's a skull. I'd rather get hit by the skull blast than that laser, which is devastating. So if you have to get hit by one, take the green hit from the skull blast. These jars can hurt you, but they're also pretty easy to break and pretty easy to maneuver around. The strategy is largely the same, except he is far more aggressive and his attacks come faster and stronger. Here is the audio cue for the lasers. There is a skull queued up, so I'm just going to be mindful of that and phase through it. You can see I'm just sitting back on this God power because in the second form, rather than using them periodically, I want to make sure I can charge it up for a big hit. And remember, just like in the Thessius fight, movement is absolutely key. Keep your distance, strike from afar, and keep moving. Be patient with the lasers, because after you do get an opportunity to get some strikes in, And he's actually being quite generous. Notice how I was willing to take that green hit as opposed to getting hit by those lasers. I'm getting some really good backstab damage in here. And here's that audio cue. And when he finishes, I'm going to go in and take some attacks. Watch the windup. You have great reaction time to just walk away from it and listen for the audio cue and take cover. Now the pattern is pretty rinse and repeat. It really gets challenging though. You'll notice he starts to summon a lot of skulls and you'll see many blasts happening at one time. So my strategy here is just to keep plucking away at his health, build up my God meter for a big attack. This wind-up attack is fast, so you need to be careful. I got the full call. Zeus gonna mess up his brother. Big attacks, but unfortunately I did get some good hits in, but he becomes impervious. Took 22 damage from the green orb, but once again, I'd rather take that hit than any of those lasers, which do constant damage. This is tricky here, but you can kind of walk through it and be patient. Don't get greedy, don't get too fast, because then you'll walk into the laser in the front. Got some big windups here. I'm going to try and avoid this. And it gets just really sticky. This is where things get tricky. So if you have a big area of effect attack, use it. Notice my charge up there was able to take out 2 skulls. And here comes the lasers. Notice I phased through that pillar to get to safety. So that's a pro strategy right there. Now we did take the death, but that's okay. We're down to our one final death defiance. We lost one against Thessius as well. But we're going to stay the course. We're not going to get reckless. And we're going to keep our distance. Now he's dropping skulls like crazy. This is where it gets challenging. I'd rather take the hit from the skull than the hit from the laser. So we have one more to phase through. Now him and I are really at low health. I'm down to 30 HP, but I'm going to keep it moving. The strategy doesn't change. And now I'm down to 1 HP. I'm going to still stay the course though. Keep my distance, strike with my special, which is my projectile, and just keep dodging. The further away from him I am, the more reaction time. This is great because I can simply charge up some big attacks here. He put himself in a bad position and I can get the skulls. Still at 1 HP. We have a Zeus power as well. Our Zeus call, drop that on him. And that's the end of Hades. I hope that this strategy helps you.
I'll get you.
I hope you found this walkthrough helpful. I know oftentimes when I go online to look up walkthroughs, the players are so god tier that I can't replicate their strategy. So here you have it, the walkthrough from an average gamer. Thank you for being with me. Please like, share, and subscribe. And remember, with great power comes great responsibility. Until next time.